Good morning, my name is Josh from CyclonesOZ, and here is your Australia weather update for March 23rd, 2025. A lot to get through today. We're going to start things off up in the Northern Territory in Queensland, where significant severe thunderstorms have been delivering some much needed and near record-breaking rainfall already across much of Western Queensland and into parts of the Northern Territory as well. We've had widespread rainfall accumulations over the past 24 hours, anywhere between 45 out to about 100 millimetres. Birdsville has picked up its wettest 24-hour period in quite a long time, with I believe it was 66 millimetres at the Birdsville station there, and about 100 millimetres has fallen around the Mount Isa area as well in some of the weather stations there. Significant rainfall from a bit of a thunderstorm line streaming into the Cardwell area as well has delivered 115 millimetres over the last couple of hours at the Cardwell Gap Alert station, just inside from Hinchbrook Island, and more significant rainfall also expected to be ongoing around there. Far North Queensland is also a bit of a rainfall prospect in the longer range forecast, but immediately speaking, some very heavy falls expected around North Queensland and the Northern Territory over the next couple of weeks as this series of low pressure systems really begin to develop through the next couple of days. So we do have two individual low pressure systems that are expected to be delivering the bulk of this rainfall here, and you can see what's going to be driving around these low pressure systems is showers and thunderstorms very widespread over the last 24 hours, and you can see they have housed some pretty heavy rainfall. And whilst they are beginning to die down right now, it gives you an idea of the rainfall that we are expecting over the next couple of weeks, or next week or so. The rainfall is going to be moving in the form of showers, but the showers are going to be very large in terms of area and pretty slow moving as well, with some moderate heavy falls embedded in them. And you can see in terms of rainfall rates here, as we saw some of the shower bands crossing into the North Queensland area last night, we're talking about rain rates averaging anywhere between 15 out to about 20 to 30 millimetres an hour, with some isolated heavier falls embedded in them as well. So it gives you an idea that these showers do actually mean business, and there are some isolated heavy to intense falls in them. Throughout the next couple of days, we are expecting this rainfall to continue to pick up. We have that low pressure system situated about 150 kilometres towards the southeast of Tennant Creek. That's going to continue wrapping itself up today, and we're expecting a series of strong showers and thunderstorms to be developing towards the southeast of it and immediately over towards the east as well. Slowly but surely, this low pressure system will move steadily towards the east, and it's expected to cross into the West Queensland side of things by early tomorrow morning, expecting an increase in showers and thunderstorms later on tonight once again across Western Queensland, but a big increase in shower and thunderstorm activity throughout tomorrow and into tomorrow afternoon. Very heavy showers can be expected between Mount Isa for locations further south down to Birdsville, and even into the northeastern corner of South Australia and across much of south central Queensland as well. We're expecting plenty of rainfall to be materialising as a result. This low pressure system will continue to head very slowly towards the east, towards the southeast, and you can see very heavy rainfall expected anywhere immediately towards the east, and especially towards the southeast of where this low pressure system tracks. You could think of this as a tropical low track, if that helps you understand what this system is going to be behaving like. It is going to have some tropical low characteristics, a defined low pressure centre, and plenty of rainfall streaming in around the sides of it and rotating around this centre like a tropical low would rotate rainfall around it. We're expecting a lot of moisture to be dragged in from the north and the northwestern side of the system here from the Gulf of Carpentaria, so lines of showers and thunderstorms expected to be developing immediately towards the northeast and the east, but that will tend to rainfall at times for the locations towards the east, and especially down towards the southeast, where moisture from the Coral Sea will meet this low pressure system here. And whilst we're not expecting significant convergent zones, which can develop some very significant rainfall accumulations throughout Monday night and into Tuesday, and right through Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, we're expecting very heavy rainfall on the southeastern side of this system. There will be a bit of a lull in the rainfall through Wednesday and into Thursday, and you can see the rainfall does actually ease off a little bit on Wednesday, but it picks up again on Thursday as this low pressure system once again deepens, and we either get a separate low pressure system coming in from the Gulf of Carpentaria, or this system gets absorbed by another low pressure system and they become one. Either way, we're expecting a rejuvenation of this low pressure system come Thursday and into Friday, and it will be basically round two of this. A very, very similar forecast beyond Thursday, Friday and Saturday as what we're going to be seeing Monday and Tuesday for Western Queensland. The low pressure system begins to move in towards the western half of Queensland. Once again, very heavy rainfall expected on the east and the southeast of this system here, and a lot of moisture being dragged in from the Coral Sea as well. So a very similar story expected to play out again into the later half of this coming week and into next weekend. And you can see through Saturday and Sunday, this low pressure system finally gets its act together by the looks of things and starts moving in a bit of a direction by the looks of things, and into the last couple of days of March it begins to very slowly weaken off by the looks of things. Still, this low pressure system will linger into the southwestern corner of Queensland around Birdsville and Bedore sort of area towards the west of Windora through Monday and Tuesday, the 31st of March and the 1st of April respectively, before moving into the northwestern parts of New South Wales and tracking down towards the southeast by the looks of things throughout the first couple of days of April. It is going to be a long week, that's for sure, across this part of Queensland. There's a lot of rainfall that's coming through for some of these locations locations here. It's also a lot of rainfall coming through for some of the historically the driest locations around Australia, and these rivers are not going to have a bar of it, that's for sure. Normally, generally speaking, you can take a couple of days of 50 to 100 millimetres up here in far north Queensland, but we're talking about a week-long period where we could be seeing rainfall accumulations up to and above 100 millimetres a day for 7, 8, 9 or even 10 days in a row for some of these locations. This is steady, locally intense rainfall for an extended period of time, and if you know anything about rainfall, you know that that is a recipe for disaster. We see it up in far north Queensland every year. That's what drives major flooding up there. It does happen every now and again for this part of Queensland. We see it every decade or so, normally from tropical lows or remnant energy over in the Gulf of Carpentaria. They can deliver some very significant rainfall accumulations, but this is a highly unusual weather event for this part of Queensland, and whilst we do normally see something like this, like I said, once every 5 or 10 years, this is certainly something that is going to be quite problematic. Let's talk about rainfall accumulations, though, and start putting some numbers on this stuff here. So, like I'm saying, 24-hourly rainfall accumulations expected to be up around that 100 millimetre mark. Widespread falls between 25 and 75 millimetres a day expected for these locations, with the highest accumulations up around that 100 to 150 millimetre mark. Now, keep in mind that it does not take much to turn this part of Queensland into a slushy bog. So, if you are travelling through the area as well, I strongly advise getting as far west as you can. Get it yourself over to the Northern Territory and then down the Central Australian Highway pretty much as soon as you can. Alice Springs will be a good place to get yourself to, or Tennant Creek, somewhere around there. But if you're playing in Western Queensland, you are doing it at your own risk, especially once we start to see this rainfall build through Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday and Friday. The rainfall is just going to become too much for this ground out here, and it's just going to start to flood all of the major rivers through this part of Queensland as well. I think it goes without saying we're expecting major flooding through there, pretty much guaranteed beyond about Tuesday or Wednesday. We're already starting to see these river levels begin to carry a bit of water now. It will take a couple of weeks for this water to flow down in towards South Australia as well, but we're expecting Lake Eyre to fill as a result of this, and we could be seeing some very significant contributions to Lake Eyre, some of the best rainfall that the catchment has seen in the last 50 years, so certainly some good rainfall is expected. But pushing this forecast out to the 1st of April, you can see throughout the remainder of the month we're expecting some very significant rainfall accumulations at some pretty big population centres as well. Mount Isa could see anywhere up to about 300 to 350 millimetres of rainfall, depending on what showers and thunderstorms materialise there. I reckon anywhere between 150 out to about 300 millimetres is possible around Mount Isa. North of Mount Isa through the Letchard River area, we can see Gregory, Burketon and Corumba rainfall accumulations between 150 out to about 450 millimetres. Corumba could be a little bit of a wild card, and we're seeing some pretty significant numbers being thrown out around here, with rainfall streaming in from the Gulf of Carpentaria. We could be seeing rainfall accumulations up there, up around the half a metre mark. Also for far north Queensland, I do know that there is some rainfall going for you guys, and I'll get to you in just a second. Big population centres such as Cloncurry, anywhere up to 300 millimetres, but as you get further towards the south, we're expecting Winton about 300 millimetres through there. Muttaburra and Longreach about 250 to 300 millimetres through there as well, but then down towards Windora, Yarraka, Addervale as well, rainfall accumulations could be up around that half a metre type mark through there. We're expecting a lot of this rainfall once these low pressure systems on, specifically speaking, Monday night into Tuesday and Wednesday, once they get themselves down into the southwestern corner of Queensland, and then once again on Friday and Saturday, the 28th and 29th of March respectively. These low pressure systems and their moisture from the Gulf of Carpentaria will then meet the moisture coming in from the Coral Sea, and we're expecting huge rainfall accumulations in this general area here, kind of in a rectangle triangulated between Longreach out to Birdsville and then down towards, I guess, Ramanga, and then across towards Charleville and Augathella, and then even up towards Emerald and Rolleston and Claremont as well. Just in this general area here, widespread rainfall accumulations between 350 out to about 550 or 600 millimetres can be expected over the next 10 days. Some really significant falls, and you can see even the forecast modelling here calling for up to 600 millimetres of rainfall. Now, historically, these locations are very dry. We're probably talking about close to a year, if not a year and a half worth of rainfall for these locations here. Out towards Birdsville, that averages about 70 millimetres in a calendar year. We're actually seeing some of these numbers out around in the Birdsville area, up around 5 times the average annual average, and we are expecting some significant rainfall accumulations there, considering Birdsville copped a year's worth of rainfall overnight. Some very significant falls are expected to materialise, and it really does put it into perspective what can happen here when we start to see moisture streaming in from the Gulf of Carpentaria. It really does not take much. I mean, this is just a perfect scenario here for rainfall to occur across typically very dry parts of Queensland. Normally we see this rainfall hover over the northern parts of the Northern Territory, but it's just going to be blown about 500 to 1,000 kilometres towards the south east. And in terms of weather standards, that's not a big distance to be moved, the weather systems here, and as such the rainfall is going to be a dramatically different situation to what we would consider a normal rainfall event up in this corner of the woods. We'll have many more details on this over the next couple of days. I'm going to have a bit of a detailed look at what they were expecting across central Queensland, because they're also expecting some really good rainfall as well, and up around North Queensland as well into the longer range forecast period. But I just want to touch on far North Queensland right now. I'm not going to go too into depth with the rainfall forecast up here, but we do have some heavy falls materialising right now around the Cardwell and the Ingham area, and this is some very slow-moving, stagnant bands of heavy rainfall that have been lingering for the last 6 hours or so. Showers and thunderstorms expected to be a little bit problematic throughout the remainder of today. We are seeing some very slow-moving bands of rainfall moving into the North Queensland coastline, especially through this Cardwell Gap area and this big bend between Townsville up to around Innisfail and Tully, and showers and thunderstorms will be lingering around the Cassowary coast as well throughout the remainder of today. I don't know why the radar loop is not willing to load in here, but take my word for it, some very significant rainfall has been recorded, and we're expected accumulations up here around that 200mm mark over the next 24 hours. It's funny how quick the rainfall can run away for locations up in far North Queensland. I think the Access Convective Forecast model paints a really good picture here, with these heavy showers expected to be streaming in throughout the remainder of today, and we could actually see some pretty heavy lines of rainfall develop later on tonight, streaming into this low pressure system, feeding into the parts of Queensland and into the Northern Territory. Some significant falls are possible tonight, and by extension, as these low pressure systems then begin to develop and draw closer towards the southeastern parts of Queensland, we're expecting an increase and an enhancement in moisture as well, especially through Monday and Tuesday around the Cardwell area, expecting some very heavy falls to materialise between Cardwell and Townsville through Monday night into Tuesday morning. We could be seeing some 24-hourly accumulations there up around the 250mm mark once again. More rainfall expected as we push this forecast forward through Tuesday and Wednesday, but it should be a little bit lighter, and then rainfall again expected to pipe up from about Thursday and Friday onwards again, and some very heavy falls can be expected as we get into the last weekend of March and into the first couple of days of April. Rainfall is expected to be quite problematic up in far North Queensland. The longer range forecast for the Coral Sea, though, is looking pretty calm. We're not talking about tropical lows or tropical cyclone activity, so whilst we do have that heavy rainfall over the next 10 days of far North Queensland, and like I said, with those big days being Monday and Tuesday, so tomorrow and the next day, we're also expecting some heavy rainfall from about Thursday onwards, and we could be seeing a bit of a resurgence to moisture as well across North Queensland from about Wednesday or Thursday onwards. We are looking at a bit of an energy period between the 27th of March out to about the 3rd or the 4th of April, so certainly something worth keeping an eye on at this point, but there's no need to talk about it considering the numbers and the specifics in the forecast are still very uncertain. A lot to be talking about over the next couple of days as well, so if you're up in far North Queensland, it is a difficult forecast, but I'll keep you posted to the best of my ability, so subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. In terms of the weather forecast of the Gulf of Carpentaria and the Northern Territory, I feel like we've hit that home pretty well. We can see significant rainfall accumulation still expected, especially as we push the forecast forward through the next 14 days. We're talking about some really heavy falls around the Darwin area, and later on into the forecast period as well, you can see the rainfall is expected to really pick up there as per the GFS, but again, the forecast still looking a little bit uncertain, so that's a little bit of an interesting aspect on the forecast right now. Anyways, let's check back in with our friends over in the West Australian waters right now. 25U, and I believe it's 26U now, is being given an official designation by the Bureau of Meteorology. 2 tropical lows offshore from the West Australian coastline, one of which is expected to become the next Australian tropical cyclone Courtney, now in the making here, offshore from the Pilbara coastline. This is the tropical low that is going to become Tropical Cyclone Courtney. You can see plenty of energy now leaving the Kimberley coastline and expected to meet this system out into the Pilbara waters pretty shortly. And this system here does have a pretty good chance at life. Now, in terms of the forecast for it, it's still a little bit murky at this time. We're going to have to be watching it pretty closely. You can see not too much in the way of development expected throughout the remainder of this weekend, and this system is going to take its sweet time to begin development. We are expecting this to begin development and a transition into tropical cyclone status by around Tuesday or Wednesday, with a fully fledged tropical cyclone expected sometime Wednesday or into Thursday. Again, this system is expected to remain well offshore from the Kimberley and the Pilbara coastline. We're not expecting any significant impacts beyond showers and a couple of strong gusts of wind up to around 40 or 50 kilometers an hour. But yeah, this system is expected to remain well offshore from the Pilbara coastline. It is really expected to remain well offshore from the Kimberley coastline, and like I've said for the nth time in the last couple of days, no threat to the West Australian coastline at all. We will see a bit of a Fujiwara interaction between these 2 tropical lows here. Tropical low 25U, which would be a carcass at this point, is expected to wrap itself up into what will be Tropical Cyclone Courtney at this point, and I do believe that the news is going to have a feeding frenzy on that as well. So if you see the words Fujiwara thrown around, just know that it doesn't mean anything significant, and it is just a lot of hype in the media. I assure you, once you click onto the articles, they're not saying anything absolutely crazy, but then again, you just can't trust media or what you find on Facebook these days. It is just a load load of horse droppings. So Tropical Cyclone Courtney, even though it will have a little bit of Fujiwara interaction with Tropical O's 25U, it is not expected to result in a massive explosion in intensity or a disaster for Western Australia. The system is just going to go about itself business as usual. The forecast, though, is a little bit uncertain. As you can see, if we push this forecast back towards Tuesday, you can see the GFS really beginning to take it off on a bit of a tangent, well offshore from the Kimberley coastline, but getting itself together really nicely through Tuesday and Wednesday, which is a lot sooner than what we're expecting, and also a lot sooner given the state of the tropical low at this time. It really hasn't begun organising, and considering it is a really small system as well, I think the GFS is just kind of making boogies out of absolutely nothing here. The GFS can do that. It's not often the best tropical cyclone forecast model, but when it gets it right, it can get it very right, which is why it's a forecast model that I check on quite regularly. And then the GFS calling for another tropical low to develop into the last couple of days of March and then head into the Kimberley coastline. Considering there's no other forecast model supporting that situation right now, the Icon forecast model is calling for something to be rotating around here. That's probably what's going to become Tropical Cyclone Courtney, and the Axis is also not really calling for anything. The forecast looking really uncertain for a direct hit on the West Australian coastline. I think what is worth noting is this system here, once it gets itself out to here, Tropical Cyclone Courtney, by around Wednesday or Thursday, the forecast is still very uncertain right now, and it will become a lot more clear over the next couple of days, but it could go one of two ways. If it is further north, it is going to continue heading out towards the middle of the ocean, but considering that we are expecting a bit of a cold front to drag across through next weekend across the southwest corner of Western Australia, thank goodness. I mean, give us some relief to the heat that we've got on the forecast. We could see this system begin interacting with the cold front and get dragged down towards Western Australia. Now, it is a weak cold front at this time of the year, of course, and this system isn't expected to make that direct hit on the West Australian coastline, but we might see this system approach the WA coastline, especially into the northern parts of the Gascoyne between Carnarvon and Exmouth by around Friday or Saturday. That's not being completely ruled out at this point, but I guarantee you, once we see this system begin to develop, it will be very obvious what is going to actually happen from this, and you'll have a definitive answer at least 72 hours out into the future if you are going to receive a tropical cyclone impact in this part of the Gascoyne or the Pilbara along the WA coastline. And I can also personally assure you that it is not expected to be a strong tropical cyclone. Once it interacts with the cold front, it is going to get blasted by wind shear, and it's really going to struggle as a result. So the carcass of the system, once it gets itself over the WA coastline, if it ever does. So I just want to be reassuring everybody there that it is a possibility on the forecast and not something that we're ruling out at this time. And the associated impacts with that will basically just be heavy rainfall and maybe some strong gusty winds as a result. But yeah, that cold front, really looking forward to that, and it cannot come soon enough because we have a stifling week for the southwest corner of Western Australia. It was hot yesterday, got up to 35 degrees closer to the hills in the southwest of Perth. Very warm indeed, and it is expected to be even warmer today. We're expecting temperatures to climb up into the early 40s up in the northern parts of the Wheatbelt into the Gascoyne. Temperatures continuing to climb into the high 30s or early 40s into the northern suburbs of Perth, and high 30s expected for Perth itself on Monday and Tuesday. Temperatures expected to be warm again on Thursday and Friday. Finally, those temperatures beginning to cool off again by this weekend, by the looks of things. Not maybe on this forecast solution here, but it looks like those temperatures might finally begin to cool off come around the 29th or the 30th of March. And it is a little bit of a hard sell right now if it's going to be a warm start to April or an average start to April. It's actually erring on the side of a warmer start to April. I do think winter is going to come a little bit earlier than usual for the southwest corner of WA, but it certainly isn't coming anytime soon though with this heat here, so certainly not looking forward to it as well. And I imagine a lot of people groaning and moaning about this heat forecast now for the southwest of Western Australia. That taste of winter weather that we got over the last week or so, really looking forward to winter as a result, and unfortunately it just cannot come soon enough. In terms of other interesting stuff around the around other interesting corners of Australia, there really isn't an awful lot to talk about. We do have a couple of showers and storms expected for the southeast of Queensland through Monday, Tuesday and Wednesday. I'll look at those in tomorrow morning's forecast update, and a cold front expected to move through the Tasmanian area, but you can see over the next week or so out towards the end of next weekend, apart from a few showers and storms expected here and there in the southeast of Queensland and the northeast of New South Wales, nothing to write home about. Bone dry across the south parts of South Australia, expecting to be bone dry as well across much of Victoria, and bone dry across the interior parts of New South Wales as well, and pretty dry for Tasmania and parts of WA as well. Interesting stuff on the forecast, that's for sure, on this Queensland stuff, certainly keeping me on my toes. Nowhere in Queensland can catch a break, and it's certainly looking like 2025 is going to be Queensland's wettest year on record, and it's only just begun. Anyways, that is all that I have time for today. A special shout out, of course, to the channel sponsors. Their names are on screen right now, and again, I could not run this show without them, and their support is much appreciated. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing and also become a channel member by clicking the join button down below. The support lately has been much appreciated, but that is all from me today, and I'll catch you all in the next storm. Goodbye.